My best friend Claire worked as a teaching assistant at a small primary school in Yorkshire for about 3 years. I'm talking about kids aged 4 to 7, the reception and year 1 age range. She's the kind of person who became a TA because she actually likes children. She has photos of her nieces and nephews on her phone, and she volunteers at a children's hospital on weekends. So when she started telling me about this one boy, I knew it wasn't her being dramatic. I'll call him Marcus, because I don't want to use his real name even now. Marcus joined the class in the middle of the autumn term. Claire said the first thing she noticed was that he didn't smile when his mom dropped him off, and he didn't cry either. Most kids that age do one or the other on the first day. He just walked in, sat down at the table he was pointed to, and stared at the teacher. Not at her face exactly. More at her mouth, like he was watching it move. For the first week, he didn't speak to anyone. Claire said she tried all her usual tricks. She got down to his level, asked about his shoes, asked if he liked dinosaurs, and offered him stickers. He just looked at her with this completely flat expression. She said it was the eyes more than anything. There was no curiosity in them, no shyness, nothing you'd normally see in a 4-year-old. He looked at her the way you might look at a piece of furniture you were thinking about throwing out. The head teacher told the staff that Marcus had been through a lot at home, and they needed to be patient. Nobody was told the details, and you weren't allowed to ask. By the second week, Marcus had started doing the wall thing. He would push his chair until it was facing the corner of the classroom and just sit there with his nose almost touching the paint. If you tried to turn him around, he'd go straight back. Then one Tuesday during phonics, Claire heard a thudding sound and turned to see him slowly and deliberately banging his forehead against the wall. Not in a tantrum, not crying. He was hitting it with this steady, calm rhythm, like he was knocking on a door and waiting for someone to answer. They had to physically pull him away. He didn't fight them. He just went limp and let them carry him. The biting started not long after that. He bit a girl called Sophie on the back of the neck while she was tying her shoe. He bit a boy on the hand during snack time and drew blood. The school sent him home twice, and each time his mom showed up looking exhausted and apologized in this quiet voice. He never said sorry, and he didn't even look at the children he'd bitten. The fork thing happened in November. Claire wasn't on dinner duty that day, but she heard about it from the dinner lady, Margaret, who'd worked at the school for 19 years. Margaret had told Marcus off for trying to bite another child in the queue. He looked up at her, picked up the metal fork from his tray, and stabbed her in the forearm with it. Margaret said the strange thing was how he did it. He didn't swing wildly. He aimed. He pushed the prongs in and twisted his wrist. Margaret had to get a tetanus jab and was off work for a week. She told Claire she'd never been afraid of a child in her life until that day. There were other things too, smaller things, that Claire only mentioned to me later, because at the time she didn't think they meant anything on their own. The teacher would come in some mornings and find the classroom door unlocked when she was certain she'd locked it the night before. Stuff would turn up in Marcus's cubby that nobody could explain, like a tiny pile of dead woodlice arranged in a circle, or a baby tooth that wasn't his. He drew a picture of his family once, and his mom had her eyes scribbled out so hard the pencil went through the paper. When the teacher gently asked him about it, he said, "She's not looking anymore," and went back to coloring. He never played with the other children. They learned to avoid him. Claire said by Christmas, the kids had developed this unspoken rule where they wouldn't sit next to him at carpet time. They'd squash up two to a square rather than be near him. Children are honest about things adults learn to pretend not to see. The chicks came in March. The school had this little incubator set up in the corner of Claire's classroom. 5 eggs, then 5 fluffy little chicks. The kids loved them, named them, took turns feeding them little bits of grain from their palms. Marcus would just stand at the side of the brooder and watch them. He never asked to hold one, and he never named any of them. He just watched, with his face very close to the wire, for as long as the teacher would let him. One Thursday after lunch, Claire came back into the classroom to find Marcus alone in there. He shouldn't have been. The door was supposed to be locked during the lunch break. He was sitting on the carpet with his back to her. When she walked round to see what he was doing, he was holding one of the chicks in his closed fist. It wasn't moving. He was looking at it the way you might look at a sweet you'd already finished eating. There was no panic on his face when she shouted. He just opened his hand, let the little body roll out onto the carpet, and said in a very normal voice, "It stopped." Claire said the part that stayed with her, the part she couldn't stop thinking about, wasn't the chick. It was then that the headmistress was called in, crouched down, and asked Marcus why he did it. He said he wanted to know how long it would take. Then he asked if he could do another one. After that, Marcus was kept in a separate room with one-to-one supervision. They were trying to get him assessed, but the waiting list was months long. Claire said the worst day was when she had to sit with him alone for an hour while they waited for his mum to collect him. She tried to read him a book. He didn't look at the pictures. He looked at her. He kept tilting his head to one side, very slowly, the way a dog does when it's trying to understand a sound. Then he said, very quietly, "I know where you live." She laughed it off because what else can you do? But on her walk home that evening, she kept turning around to check the path behind her, and she started taking a different route after that. She left the school the following September. She told me she still thinks about him. She wonders what he's doing now, where he ended up, and whether anyone managed to help him. I told her I hope so, but honestly, the way she described his face when he asked if he could do another one, I'm not sure help was ever going to be the right word for it. I go to a school in a town near Manchester. I won't say which one. This happened in March 2025. I used to hang out with 3 guys who were the proper nerdy type, smart, into computers, the kind of people who could actually hack into your stuff if they wanted to. I'll call them Person 1, Person 2, and Person 3 because I don't want to use their real names. It started on a Wednesday when Person 1 just stopped being friends with me out of nowhere. No reason, no fight, nothing. That part probably isn't even connected to what happened later, but it set the mood for the week. Then on Friday, Person 2 came up to me at school and asked if I could pass a letter to a girl. He said it was from Person 3. I should explain what Person 3 was like. He didn't like women, full stop. He was obsessed with war stuff, knew way too much about weapons, and just generally came across as someone who wasn't right in the head. He thought this girl had a crush on him, and instead of being flattered or whatever, he hated her for it. He wanted me and Person 2 to spy on her. I feel awful about it now because the girl is actually really nice and I'm friends with her. But I passed the letter on. I can't even remember what it said. About 20 minutes later, I texted Person 3 to let him know it was done. He texted back, saying he never told anyone to do that. So now I'd handed a random letter to a girl in his name, and he was pretending he had nothing to do with it. After school, I went to the girl and asked for the letter back. She said no. Fair enough, I just handed her a weird letter, and now I wanted it back like it never happened. When I got home, I texted her and told her if Person 3 ever asked whether she got a letter, she should say no. That was a stupid thing to put in writing. Then I messaged Person 3 on WhatsApp and asked what he was planning to do. He said he was going to interrogate her and that he was going to endorse hacking. That's the exact phrase he used. Who talks like that? I sent Person 1 a long paragraph at some point too, telling him what I thought of him for ditching me, but that's a separate thing. The next Monday at school, Person 3 walked straight up to me. He'd somehow found out I'd given the girl the letter. He called me a moron and said I was responsible for what he called a data breach. He used that phrase seriously, like we were in some spy film. I tried to keep my face normal and just walked off. This was a kid who'd once brought a full toolbox into school. A toolbox. Someone reported him, and he got put in isolation, but the fact that he even thought to do that should tell you what kind of person he was. I went home that afternoon and blocked him on everything. Tuesday, he just stared at me across the corridor. I tried to apologize again, more to keep the peace than anything. He ignored me, walked past me, and went up to my other friend and started talking to him in their shared language, because that friend isn't originally English. I knew they were talking about me. That same day, I went up to person 2 and started having a go at him for being involved. He started smirking while I was talking, and I noticed he had his phone angled toward me. He was recording it. Later, I found out he was sending bits of it to person 3. Wednesday was quiet. Thursday, I was standing outside a classroom talking to the girl and one of her friends about something normal, schoolwork, I think, and I noticed person 3 had stopped in the corridor a few meters away. He was just looking at us. Then he pulled out a notebook from his bag and started writing in it, not glancing at us, not pretending to do something else, just openly writing while watching us. I moved my body so I was facing away from him and kept talking, but I couldn't really focus on what the girl was saying after that. Friday was the 28th of March. He stared at me on and off all day. Nothing said, just looking. I went home at the normal time. At 3:34 p.m. my phone rang. The number was one I half recognized, but I couldn't place it. I answered it without thinking. A voice said my full name, first name, middle name, surname. It was him. I hung up. I don't know why I hung up. It was a stupid thing to do. You're meant to stay on the line so you know what someone wants. The phone rang again straight away. I picked up. I'm not going to write out what he said. He told me what he was going to do to the girl and then what he was going to do to me. The specifics aren't the point. The point is that this was someone who once carried a toolbox into a building full of children, and now he was on the phone describing things in a calm voice. I wish I'd recorded it. The whole time I was thinking about how he got the girl's information. How did he even know I'd given her the letter in the first place? He had to have got into my phone, or hers, or both. There's no other way it adds up. He hung up. I sat on the floor in the hallway and cried, which I'm not embarrassed about. My mom got home not long after, and I told her. She rang the school first, then the police. The police came round and took a statement. They were polite, but you could tell they weren't going to do anything unless something else happened. They said next time I should phone the school straight away. There wasn't really a next time for the police to deal with, though. I stayed out of school on Monday. I told my mom I wasn't going in until I knew something had actually been done. Later that day, I heard through someone that person 3 had received a phone call himself. Someone unknown had rung him and threatened him. I don't know who did it. He apparently got a lift into school that morning because he was too scared to walk in on his own, and he went straight to the safeguarding to report it. Whoever made that call, it worked. He never spoke to me again after that. I went back in on Tuesday, the 1st of April. I told a teacher what had happened. They said if anything else happened, it would be a proper police matter now. Word got around the school, and most people know bits of what happened, but no one really knows the full story. Then, on the 21st of April, my friend told me person 3 had asked him to ask me to tell my friends to stop calling him. So, somebody was still ringing him. I genuinely don't know who. I never asked anyone to do that. Bits of this still don't add up, and I've stopped trying to work them out. I still see him in the corridors. He doesn't look at me anymore. He's still a weirdo. Pretty much everyone agrees on that. This is something that happened to me when I was in the 7th grade back in 2016, living in New York City. I had this math teacher named Miss Andre. She wasn't exactly my favorite teacher, as I felt like she wasn't the nicest to me and my class. And she would give us a load of homework that was like homework for someone who is like a senior in college. Anyways, let's get to the point of this story. It was a Friday after school, which was the last day before we had a 1-week break because of the President's Day holidays. I was on my way home, riding on a school bus that I would take to school and home every day. As I was halfway home, the bus stopped at a red light. As we were waiting for the light to turn green, I saw something that caught my eye as I was looking out the window, listening to music with headphones on. To the left of me, I saw my teacher, Miss Andre. She was looking directly at me, and she looked so uptight, I felt so unnerved. I was wondering if she was following the bus, but that was highly unlikely. It probably was just a coincidence. Also, the window was pretty dark, so she might have been unsure if it was me or not. The light then hit green, and we drove away. It was weird seeing someone I knew outside of school, considering that New York City is the most populated city in the country. I got home and was able to move past what I saw earlier. The next evening, me and my family, along with my cousins, went to see a Muse concert in New Jersey. Sometime in the concert, Miss Andre appeared again. This time, she was on the stage of the Prudential Center. She just appeared like magic, looking straight at me with the same facial expression from yesterday. This had to have been a hallucination, because if it wasn't, everyone in the crowd would notice her, and the security guard would escort her off the stage. I felt less uneasy now that I was coming to terms with the fact that this isn't real, so I ignored it and continued to have fun grooving along to the music. That's when she disappeared again. Miss Andre didn't appear again until the Friday of the next week. On that Friday, me and my family went to spend the weekend hiking at Mount Greylock. About 40 minutes into the hike, Miss Andre showed up once again. I wasn't scared anymore. It was getting really annoying, and I didn't know how to get rid of this hallucination. I was contemplating my next move. Then an idea flew into my brain. So what I did was I ran to where Miss Andre was, and once I got to where she was standing, she was gone, just like the wind. Poof! My family looked at me as if I were on drugs or something. My mother asked me if I was all right. I came up with this excuse that I had to get some energy out. My mother then said, "Okay then," as she still kept the same facial expression. I didn't want to tell them what I was seeing. I was just way too embarrassed. Plus, they probably wouldn't have believed me anyway. We continued the hike until we reached the top of the mountain. We camped out that night somewhere in the mountains, and then the next night, my parents booked an Airbnb to stay at. The house that we stayed at was fairly big. I got my own bedroom. During the next night, I fell asleep at around 11 p.m. I had a dream about Miss Andre. The dream was about me coming back from President's Week break, and she ordered the entire math class to kill me. I pleaded with them not to kill me and screamed the word no over and over, and then a classmate of mine pulled out a pair of scissors from their pocket. Before they attacked me, I woke up, and I saw Miss Andre like an inch away from my face. She was laughing and screaming like a hyena while she had such an angry expression on her face, as if she was in fact going to kill me. That's when I started screaming and crying for my parents as loud as I could, and when I did that, Miss Andre disappeared like she was never there. Both of my parents came rushing into my room and asked what was wrong. I could no longer hide what I have been seeing for the past week. I had to tell them the truth. I told them that from when the hallucinations started the prior Friday on the school bus, the two other instances, and just minutes ago when I woke up from a nightmare. They looked really scared and concerned. They could tell I was being serious by my crying. My father said he was so sorry, and he asked me, "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" I said to him, "I thought you guys wouldn't have believed me and thought that I was just crying wolf." My mother then said to me that I could sleep in their room tonight, so I could calm down and won't have to be scared anymore. And so I slept in their room for the rest of the night. The next morning, on the drive back home to the city, I had a long discussion with my parents about how I shouldn't return to that school because of what happened this whole week. And I was scared that these hallucinations would continue if I stayed at the school. I also wanted to transfer to another school right away. They seemed too hesitant to give me a straight answer, and they both said that they would come up with a decision by nighttime and said that I was allowed to miss school tomorrow, regardless of what decision they would make. When it reached nighttime, they said I was allowed to transfer to another school if I agreed to see a psychologist once every week. I told them, no problem. When I started at my new school, my friends kept asking me through social media and text about why I left my old school. I made up a lie saying that my parents wanted me to go to a school that was more well known. Believe it or not, they all actually believed that lie I told them. The real reason only stays between me, my family, and my psychologist. Speaking of my psychologist, I was able to talk about all of my problems, including the hallucinations about my old teacher, Miss Andre. That really helped me, And the psychologist was able to prescribe me some medicine to help me through each and every day to make sure that I was no longer seeing stuff in my head. And it all worked. I never saw Miss Andre with my own eyes ever again, nor did I see any hallucinations again. I still wonder to this day what may have caused that specific hallucination. I guess we'll never know. So that's it for tonight. Whether it is a mind playing tricks because of stress, a classmate using technology to scare you, or a child showing signs of a deep behavioral issue, these stories show us that school is a place where we learn about more than just books. They remind us that our sense of safety can be fragile and that we must always pay attention to what is happening around us. From an educational view, these stories teach us that our brains and our actions are very complex. When we are under a lot of pressure, our minds can sometimes create hallucinations or scary visions as a way to handle anxiety. It is also a lesson in modern safety. We live in a world where keeping our personal information private is just as important as locking a door. Most importantly, when a person lacks empathy or acts out in violent ways at a young age, it is often a sign that they need serious professional help. In the end, these experiences tell us that we should never keep our fears a secret. Whether the problem is a trick of the mind, a digital bully, or a troubled peer, the best thing to do is reach out to a trusted adult, a doctor, or a counselor. By learning to recognize these red flags and speaking up early, we can protect ourselves and others from the things that go bump in the classroom. So how was your experience today? Let me know in the comments. If you come for the first time, then make sure to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon for more upcoming scary stories. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.